Tommy, a lot of Tuesdays coming up, so we're going into a bit of a tricky period at the moment, aren't we, in terms of a lot of games?
Well, yeah, it's going to be a very heavy schedule. I think a lot of teams could argue that they'd have similar, but ours is particularly in terms that I think we're looking at the next sort of 8 Tuesdays and Saturdays concurrently, at least. And if we were to progress in any of the cup competitions that we're still in, then that could change even further to add more. But we have to take every game as it comes. And the one behind us is literally that. We've got to look forward at Roots Hall tomorrow night.
Well, today's training session is the first one after a game, but it's also the first one before a game, so it's a bit of a tricky one, I guess, for you guys. What's that look like for the players?
Yeah, I mean, this happens on a fairly regular basis and will do going forward. You just got to look after the lads who've played the vast majority of the minutes in terms of how much time they spend on their feet. We've still got to get the information into the whole group as to the opposition that we're going to face and the game plan that we're going to roll with. But ultimately, the players were sort of primed with all of this with Brad and Hugo last week, so they knew what was coming. So it's a slightly different sort of approach, but only in that they know what's coming. Sometimes it's good to keep it under wraps. Other times, I think if you give adults, responsibility, they'll take it, and I like to think that our lads will do that.
It's a local one for you, isn't it? You're living in that area, so
Yeah.
we expecting you to know a lot about Southend. How's the looking at those guys been?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Southend, I think everybody knows, has publicly had their troubles, but I think the footballing operation there is run by very, very good people. Know what they're doing. They've got a good side, and I've watched them. I watched their last two, the previous home games prior to the Saturday game there, and they won them both. And they're backed by a fantastic following, a football league following, really. So, well, part of me wants them to do really well, in the longer term. Obviously, tomorrow night, it's all about Aldershot Town, and we want to, have a reaction to a defeat. I felt that the reaction on mass straight after the game on Saturday, in general, was quite, timid. But there were one or two people who voiced a couple of opinions that one or two of our players didn't particularly take to, which they're entitled to. If you're entitled to opinion, then the player is also entitled to his opinion. But we fully appreciate the fact that, we had nearly 800 people travel down the M3 to Eastleigh. And whilst there mightn't be that many in number, the people that come to Roots Hall will be as appreciated by certainly the staff and our players. So we'll be giving what we can to try and bring something back up the 127 and around the 120, the M25.
I'm sure the reaction in the group's been positive,
Yeah.
and looking to go again.
Oh, listen, I mean, like we said, we've got something like 14 or 15 games in the next 8 or 9 weeks. Now, in between them games is 2 days and 3 days. So whether we win, lose or draw, you're not going to get maybe in high as a kite if we win, low as a snake's belly if we lose. You're going to see this same face, this same reaction, and probably the answer to your same mundane questions.
Well, we spoke about it after the game. Now, we're going to want a reaction, aren't we? But we've had that a pretty decent unbeaten run. The first loss of this calendar year, wasn't it? So
yeah, that's what's a little bit frustrating. I understand that, if you look, it might be a couple of 3 weeks before we've won a game, but we haven't played for 2 weeks, and we haven't played a league game concurrently because there's been cup games in the way. So, we can only play what's put in front of us. And, with my hand on my heart, I'm looking at you and being honest here. If you'd have told me after 30 minutes that we were going to be 2-0 down on Saturday, I would have laughed at you, because we were in control of the game. The last piece, the last entrance into the final third, we didn't dress it up. We didn't put the cherry on the cake. And in fairness to them, they entered our box twice with 2 good finishes. So, that is football. Unfortunately, it's not in the rules that you can't lose, but you've got to have a reaction. And most of the time when we've ever lost a game, the next, and like I said, for the first 45 minutes on Saturday, I thought we were well worth of at least being in, on parity with the opposition, but probably being in front with the amount of good chances. We had 11 shots at their goal in that period. So, that's one of them things. People who were there will know. People who were there who don't know didn't see it. That's their choice. But I'm not going to change my narrative, and if people think that's right or not, then that's their opinion and they're entitled to that. But we'll go down that road, that long and winding road to Southend, and hopefully bring something back with us.
James Henry obviously picked up a knock. Is that more of a long-term one or short-term? And then Dejan as well. We've been missing him a while. Can we see him soon?
Dejan's really innocuous situation that's caused this. just seems to be dragging around a bit. He's got to lead the medical team in terms of how and when he steps up further with his rehabilitation. But I don't think he's a million miles away. James, a little bit like when he was precautionary against Boreham Wood, he came off in the first half, and thankfully he's back. He was back on the pitch within 10 or 12 days. So we don't know is the honest answer. It's highly unlikely James will be involved tomorrow, but we haven't ruled him out fully yet. Again, that'll be his choice because he's a guy who knows his own body. Everybody else who was involved or travelled to the game on Eastleigh will be what we'll be picking from on Tuesday night.
And I know you always tend to say, don't you, that we're only thinking about the next game. But when in these kind of runs, when you have a lot of Saturday, Tuesday, do you ever have to kind of have one eye on the Saturday game when you come into Tuesday?
I think as what I alluded to early on is that Brad and Hugo have come up with a schedule for the period of games that we've got, and so the players, they don't know who the players are yet, but the players who start the games will do far less 2 days after the game when we return to training. That's all it is. But it's no good me thinking about looking after Tom, Dick or Harry because we're playing, Hartlepool on Saturday and then Sittingbourne next Saturday and think, I better keep him for that game. It's all about the next game in football, and that's all we can look for. And like I said, whether we win, lose or draw, you won't see very much different in my approach and the staff's approach, and hopefully with the players' approach.